Today we are celebrating two fantastic milestones. The first one is the first year anniversary of American Samoa connections to Hawaii cable. And the second is the launch of HoloCampus, the first 3D remote learning platform in the Pacific.
Good morning and welcome to a moment that will be looked back on as a historical landmark for the territory of American Samoa.
Well, aloha and welcome to this event, to the other half of it. It's such a pleasure to see you all. This is a set of relationships empowered by this technology and the remarkable new Hawaii network connection that we will be using together for years to come.
Today I'd like to share some results from a project that is focused on one of American Samoa's most important water resources challenges.
What this really enables us to do is we can do much more together and in different groups, but this way we can actually create meetings with our teams, we can share information such as we're doing here today, we can offer classes, we can engage in consultations. All of that is almost impossible without the kind of direct high-speed connections that we're demonstrating here today.
Technologies like this, I could really see being a benefit and potentially, opening up kind of a certificate program or something to bring to the students at ASCC and provide some of the courses that they don't have the capacity to teach there.
Especially from a student perspective, now they can enjoy the quality of instruction from the University of Hawaii. And we have friends like Rebi Calasso and Hawaii has made this all possible. And we're very thankful for this partnership, and we hope that it will continue.
I currently am pursuing my master's with the University of Hawaii, and we're learning more about this STEAM education. And with the high-speed internet, I can access it from my home, aside from the school, because before I would do the work at school because that's the fastest place I could find access to the internet.
Since Hawaii was connected, and in that time we've seen about a 10 times increase in the amount of data flow through our customers. And the second wave, where we'll see another doubling, will be in the institutional use of this internet capacity, especially for education, for healthcare, and then for job creation, to the development of our country and the development of the people.
In the Pacific, we're on the front lines of climate change. We're certainly facing the impact sooner than the rest of the world, and helping the rest of the world see that, the solutions we're finding that they will also need moving forward, grounded in some cases in the traditional wisdom of the Pacific Islanders. That's just going to be a remarkable opportunity for years to come.
It was a great day in American Samoa with the launch of HoloCampus and the celebration. I would like to thank all the teams involved in this great operation today, including ATSCA, the American Samoa Community College, and the
Talatalatai ai ngā mawo, ai o whasauta i ngai mawhai e pia o ngā mafuta whaatasi.
The Hawaii cable will bring faster and much cheaper internet to the population here in American Samoa. This will be a great thing for the whole population, for the entire country. The American Samoa is the last landing of the Hawaii cable. It's the 5th branching unit we are going to install on the system.
The cable will be floated ashore. There'll be yellow or red buoys attached to the cable about every 5 to 7 metres, initially being towed by the dive boat and then being hauled by a rope.
Oh, this is huge, milestone in the development of American Samoa, and this is trailblazing at its best. We've been looking for this for a long time, and we have been wishing and hoping for it, and finally, it's here.
It's an economic development engine for the future. As you know, we are very dependent on the canneries. That's kind of our main private industry. There are many other smaller businesses, but this, I think, represents a big leap for American Samoa.
I'm excited as a generation that's been waiting to have the application of technology stimulate a lot of the economy so it could help our people.
Today is a very special day to our Azteca family that we've been waiting for this for a long time. Everybody's excited and everybody is really looking forward to improve our service through the internet service and to connect us to Hawaii cable.
Why is it important? It's because it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for our people in our territory. Right from education to creation of job opportunities to health, it's also going to create opportunities for entrepreneurs.
With Hawaii here in American Samoa, this is a great opportunity for us to not only connect with the other Pacific Islands, but also for the rest of the world. Not a lot of people know about American Samoa. This is the great opportunity for us to promote our island as a destination for people to come and travel.
Well, we've been waiting for today to take place and know for a fact that this will be the future of American Samoa. Improving communication, improving technology, you know, new call centers, internet cafes, and all those kinds of new development. Improving education and our health system, it all depends on how well this technology will take place.
We're now in the final stage to connect American Samoa to the Hawaii cable. We had a fantastic partnership with Azteca, and we are so pleased and so proud to be here today.
we're just going to start in a little bit, but we wanted to go over some housekeeping issues for our online call. Next slide. The AS Broadband launch, this virtual launch is being recorded for documentation. There is an opportunity also to view the recording after, and that will be shared with our local group and the Department of Commerce, and it will be at their discretion to share. Also, the launch is being broadcasted live on Facebook Live via the DOC Facebook page. All participants are automatically muted when joining Zoom. However, please be mindful of your audio and video buttons that are at the bottom left corner of Zoom. Know that you are, we can see your video. Sometimes it automatically turns on, so be mindful of your environment and those things. If at any point you do get disconnected or dropped from the call, you may rejoin using the same link that was provided with your registration. Next slide. We are utilizing the chat function of Zoom to introduce yourselves, your organization, and where you are connecting from. So please look out for the Zoom icon at the on your toolbar in the middle. Comments and questions are also taken via chat as we go through our speakers, and an operator will be reading those questions and comments during the end of each segment. Please remember that if you have the down button on everyone when submitting your chat, that means you are chatting with everyone, but you can send private messages to certain people on this call. And there's about 45 people already connected on the call, so that's really fantastic. So please be mindful of those types of things, and to use the chat feature, just click on the chat icon at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, and it looks something like that. Next slide. And throughout the call, we do have some interactive polls that we encourage you to participate. So there's 46 people now on the call. And I think it would be really good to, at times, get a feel and temperature of the room. So we encourage your participation in the polls. So with that, we're going to try one for those who are able, and you are sitting in front of your computer and able to participate. So I'm going to launch a poll to just try it out. Okay, so I just launched our first poll, and I'll give everyone about 10 seconds to complete. Wow, we have over 50%, 70% participation so far. That's great. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and poll has closed. Great. All right, so I'm just gonna give an example. So this is a reflection of what everyone's voted throughout this first question. So the question was, broadband is most important for, and a list: entertainment, healthcare, education, government, and commerce. And everyone, majority, 89% of people said that all of these things are important, hence everyone participating in today's call. All right, let's try one more. All right, so let's hear your answers. I know we can do better than that. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, And I'll go ahead and close the poll. And I will share your results. The question was, the history of modern telecommunications began with 16% said drums, 32% said smoke signals, 29% says yelling and screaming, and then 24% said light codes. And fantastic, it started with smoke signals. So this is some very smart people that we're dealing with today. So with that, I know I have everybody, I see smiley faces, so I know it's time to go ahead and start. So with that, I turn it over to Michael McDonough at the Department of Commerce.
All right, well, thank you, Ginger. And talofa, everybody. Good morning. It looks like we have a great showing today at our virtual launch, the Department of Commerce. And since we have a full agenda today, we're going to just get right to it. But first, as is customary in our culture, we begin all events like this with a prayer to not only honor God, but to ask for his blessings as we take on an endeavor like this. And so I'd like to ask Ray to please open up our launch with a prayer.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody this wonderful morning. I was asked to give prayer this morning, also just to also lead out in a short devotional. This morning's word, misophonia, it comes from the Greek word misos, meaning hate, and phonia, meaning voice. This case means sound. Misophonia means a sound you hate, and there are people for whom certain sounds cause anger or disgust or anxiety. The brain's alarm system, the amygdala, does its thing, and deep down in the brain, there's something that causes a person to perceive these sounds as a threat. Might not happen to you, but it happens to others. And this helps us to remember that we are not all the same. You don't all have the same issues. Transfer that over to a spiritual experience. You might not ever have an issue with addiction, but there are people that do. You might not be able to understand why some people can be so flaky or so irresponsible. And yes, for sure, there is room for a person to get their act together. But there is also room for understanding that our people are varied. And we have different strengths and weaknesses. Someone gets drunk, someone gets caught in adultery, someone gets caught in an act of dishonesty. The knee-jerk response is to castigate, to shun, or to shame. Sure, people have to take responsibility for bad behavior. And yes, there is consequences. But look at Galatians 6, verse 1 and 2. The Apostle Paul writes, "Brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself lest you will also be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." That's some good counsel, isn't it? Imagine the world, imagine the church, imagine our community, imagine the difference in the lives of people if there was someone that would bear their burdens, help them up, lift them up when they are down. Maybe God is calling for you to make that difference. Maybe God is calling for you to be that person in someone's life. That is our short devotional this morning. And I ask if you would please humbly bow your heads as I lead us in a word of prayer this morning. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning full of gratitude and thankfulness, Father, for all that you have done for us. We thank you for this wonderful opportunity that we have this morning to come together as a group that's seeking to serve your people in the Spirit of Christ, Father. We ask you, Father, to please be with us throughout this meeting. And we humbly ask you, Father, to please also help us to understand your will in our lives, Father. We ask you, Father, to please be with the leaders of this government and our countries and the wonderful people that are gathered on this call, Father. May you give them good thoughts and give them inspiration, Father, so that we may conduct ourselves in accordance to your will, but also conduct ourselves to be of service, Father, to our people. We ask you, Father, for forgiveness for any sin that may hinder us, Father, from drawing closer to you. And we ask all of these things, dear Lord. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ray. We very much appreciate that. Again, thank you. So as we get started, folks, I want to set the stage for today's launch so we know what today is all about. Now, we've gotten a variety of questions about the territorial broadband strategy. What is it? Why are we doing it? Can I read it? And the answer to that last question is no, you can't read it because we don't have one yet. And I say yet because that's what today is all about. Today, we are initiating the launch of the process of creating a broadband strategy that will guide American Samoa's efforts for the next 3 to 5 years. We'll need everybody's input as we develop the strategy. So I'm glad to see all the names that are up on our Zoom screen here. These are folks who are stakeholders, who are industry players, who are entrepreneurs, who are leaders, educators. So we'll need everybody's input before it's all said and done. Now this project will run through the end of this year. So again, we're just getting started and there's much more to get to today. But right now, I'd like to invite our first speaker of the day to give a few remarks regarding the launch of our territorial broadband strategy initiative. I'm asking Director of Department of Commerce, Wailili Kinseli Lafele, to please say a few remarks. Director.
Yeah, Malofa State. Please bear with me as I say a few words in Samoan. Ua I la tual tatou taulanga si tia lana auna. Sunga whaiwheau ia rei tula whono. Ua mai a whoi o na whailo lau tū o le nei aso mal whamoe moe e le whongo laso sunga ia Mike McDonald. I le ngangana whaperetania. Ai o te vea nei teimi o te mua ai whaatulo atu I pa ia ma le malu o le atunu. O tau sā mu whai ngā, le ale o iei se leo le auna. Awa ua iei lawa I la tau o umana tofi, e pui pui malu pa ia ia. Ia e vea uma. Sui o lana whionga ko wana lolo matalasi maulinga, mal whainga malo, o te tatala aloa ina ile nei whamoe moe ua ta ua o le American Samoa Territorial Broadband Strategy. Salo a wha Samoa ina lea whai upu wha Peretania. O le whausia lea o ala wha te tekono kolosi, wala wha te le vave ina ia whisota I ei tangata American Samoa I to tonu lava o territory. Ia po'o I le vā o le territory. Ia maisi atu nuu o laulangi. Ia o malo le langi e mama. O malo le soifo maua. Talofa and good morning. On behalf of Governor of American Samoa, Honorable Lolo Matalasi Molinga, I welcome all of you to the launching of the planning and development of the American Samoa Territorial Broadband Strategy. I'd like to thank all speakers who have volunteered their time to be part of this very special occasion, and those in the audience whom we hope would participate in the development of this important project for the people of American Samoa. Last July, American Samoa launched the Hawaii submarine cable and essentially put an end to slow, unreliable, and expensive internet in American Samoa for good. It had been 10 years since the American Samoa, Hawaii, and the American Samoa cables were launched, and 10 years of frustration. But as we meet today to launch the Territorial Broadband strategy via our new and improved broadband capabilities, we all can breathe a sigh of relief. Since its launch, Hawaiki has helped us see improved communications across the internet. We see closer connections to families and friends who live abroad via social media. Soldiers and other servicemen and women video chat with families here at home regularly. We also now watch world affairs unfold before our very eyes in real time via the internet. Students who are seeking college degrees can stay home to care for their families while still achieving their education goals. Businesses are relying more on the improved internet speeds to drive efficiencies and revenues. We are seeing the change that was promised with the delivery of Hawaiki, or are we? The arrival of the COVID-19 global pandemic has had a devastating impact on all global communities. We are no exception. But if there is a silver lining to be seen, perhaps it is that it has taken a global pandemic to force us to become innovative and use the resources we have to carry out the work that still needs to be done. We have seen a massive shift in how we congregate and communicate. This virtual lunch will have how many people today? 50, 100, maybe 500? People are meeting virtually to share information, to plan, to work, to collaborate. This is significantly more cost-effective and efficient. But what else can we do? How else can we be innovative? What other ways can we use these incredible tools, all anchored in high-speed broadband via Hawaiki submarine cable, to better serve our community? In some cases, it is pretty clear. Those in healthcare, we must drive telehealth to the next levels, improve access and quality of healthcare for all. And that this is very timely and very relevant in American Samoa because we are so far isolated from the mainland and where the high quality healthcare centers are. So telehealth is something that we should pursue very diligently. For those in education, use these resources to improve the training of our teachers, the training that our teachers receive, and improve access to classroom resources for our children. For business owners, well, you know what needs to be done. You are self-motivated. What else can we do? I put this challenge to all of you this morning. As you go about your work in government, business, or otherwise, ask yourself this one question. How can I use Hawaiki to better serve our people? Our administration has completed the $90+ million BLAST, that is broadband linking American Samoa territory project, and has delivered the $30+ million Hawaiki submarine cable. we have successfully laid what is now a solid foundation for the potential third pillar of our economy. The other two pillars being the territorial government and the fishing industry, mainly Starcase Samoa. But I say potential because the work still has to be done. It is up to you now to take these tools and apply them in your respective fields to help improve the quality of life of every person in American Samoa. Broadband strategy will help us map out what we must do to make this third pillar a reality. Good luck, and let's see what we can do with Hawaii. Soifua.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Director Lafaele. We really appreciate your comments and getting off to a great start here this morning. Now, the director is right. We've all experienced the frustrations of slow and expensive and unreliable internet. I think it was back in 2012 when American Samoa was dubbed, as having the most expensive internet in America. It's a dubious title, but that was the reality back then. Well, today all of that has changed, and as director said, and the question and challenge that he put to us, now what? Now, it's fantastic that we can all binge watch Netflix without buffering, that we can TikTok all day long, or if pet videos are your thing. Hey, great, more power to you. But there's got to be more. I mean, really, there's got to be more. And the good news is there is more, and that's what the territorial broadband strategy is really all about. The value of proper planning cannot be understated. It's extremely important, especially when you have limited time and limited resources, like most small island developing states have. We have very limited resources. Planning is also essential when you're entering uncharted waters. I liken to what lays out in front of us. I liken that to, the new Wild Wild West. The new manifest destiny is out there in the internet somewhere, right? And it's up to us to go out and grab it and make it ours. But in order to navigate our way forward, a map will help us get to where we want to go much sooner as opposed to later. Now, I personally believe, and some of you may share this thought as well, that we all share an obligation now to our community, whether you are in government or business, but we share an obligation to work to improve the quality of life for the people of American Samoa. And this significantly improved broadband can help us accomplish this, and to a large degree. And it is our goal that through this process, through this initiative that we are starting today, that we will be able to accomplish three key objectives. First, effectively leverage the broadband we now have across all industries and all sectors. So we're talking healthcare, education, economic development, government services, you name it. We're looking to really leverage the resource that we have across any and all industries. Objective number two, we want to heighten both the local and international awareness of our broadband capabilities. We want to make sure that we get out into our community and we inform and educate, everybody about what is possible now, what we have here now in American Samoa. But in addition to that, we also want to make it known to the international community for a number of different reasons. But we want to make sure that people know American Samoa has the capabilities that are unrivaled really in our region, and very comparable to what you can see in the US, in big cities in the United States. And objective number three, and this is also extremely important that we never lose sight of this, is to address the digital divide that still exists here in American Samoa, despite the significantly improved telecommunication infrastructure. So we have to be mindful of that divide. It's out there, we know it, and it's our duty and responsibility to make sure that we continue to close that gap. Now I have one last comment regarding the Broadband Strategy Initiative that I want to emphasize before we continue on and bring on our guest speakers. As we progress through this process, we also plan to attack all the low-hanging fruit that's out there. Things that we can actually do now as opposed to plan for, we want to do now. Now, on your screens, you'll see a perfect example of low-hanging fruit. For years, we've been talking about being able to create a contact center or a call center here in American Samoa. And back in February of this year, after almost a year of preparation and planning, we launched the first true BPO BPO call center, contact center in American Samoa. Now what you see out in front of you on your screen, this is the Department of Commerce's BPO incubator, and it's located in Whangatongo, right between DPS and the Luminati building. It's up in the back, and it's a Azteca building, and this project is a public and private partnership. You have Department of Commerce partnering with Azteca to create the facility and fund the operation of the call center, the contact center. But then we also have a private sector partner. And in this case, Cloud Solutions is the operator in the incubator. You can see Luisa's photo right there in the middle. Cloud Solutions is owned and operated by Luisa and Kenneth Kuea. And they're doing a fantastic job. Today, by my last count, the incubator, along with our partners, Cloud Solutions, has created 35 brand new jobs. These aren't jobs that we borrowed or stole from down the street. These are new jobs, which means new opportunities and new money coming into the territory. And so that's an example of low-hanging fruit. Again, when we come across low-hanging fruit, we want to pick that fruit and make things happen. So please keep that point in mind as we proceed through this year-long process of developing the Territorial Broadband Strategy. One final note on the Territorial Broadband Strategy, the TBS, as we call it, is being funded by a grant awarded by the Economic Development Administration to the AESG Department of Commerce. And to help us facilitate the development of the strategy, DOC put an RFP out to the public, and the contract was eventually awarded to SH3 Resource Development. Now, SH3 Resource Development is a planning firm that offers support services for content and resource development in developmental communications for rural and remote communities through technology applications, education, and training. Through a partnership with the University of Hawaii's Telecommunications and Social Informatics Research Program, or UH-TASI, SH3 will work collaboratively with ASG Department of Commerce and local stakeholders to facilitate development of the Territorial Broadband Strategy. This partnership brings together a combination of local, regional, and institutional knowledge and experience in strategic planning and telecommunications in Hawaii and the US affiliated Pacific. Now the project lead is Miss Ginger Lay Porter. She'll be the project lead for this initiative. Ginger, who is currently based in Honolulu, is originally from Auasi, American Samoa, so a local girl. She has almost 20 years of work in education and training and ICT and telecom resource management projects, including the FCC Broadband Demonstration Network, Distance Education Learning, Telehealth Applications Consortium, that's a mouthful, as well as NOAA's and the National Weather Service Pacific International Training Desk. She currently manages the Pacific RayNet, or Radio and Internet Network, which is a family of satellite communication systems providing communications to the remote Pacific Islands for disaster management and response. So everybody, please welcome Ms. Ginger Lay Porter.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. What better way to demonstrate the broadband capacity in American Samoa than to have over 60 connections join in on this virtual launch today, as well as it being streamed live on social media. These are fantastic milestones in our progress for broadband. So bravo, American Samoa. This is really, really great. We are living in a very exciting time with endless possibilities for access to content, technology, information, and data, and growth in society through the use of broadband. American Samoa has always been at the forefront of telecommunications in the region. And some of you may remember, and many familiar names and faces on our call today, efforts in the 60s and the 70s where we had education TV that was broadcasted from KBZK TV to different schools into Tuila, Manua, and Aunuu. We've also seen the growth in our infrastructure when the first online fiber rings were laid in the 90s, providing the backbone infrastructure for distance education, your disaster communications, and the early onset of telehealth using a free dedicated bandwidth donated by our local telecom carrier at the top, Astacom. It was a 384 kilobits per second. So some of you may laugh now, but back then that was great bandwidth. So it was an analog connection that required an operator, specialized equipment, and dedicated facilities to connect you to an event like this, like where we are today. But now you can connect from anywhere. And that's also the power of broadband. It allows for the mobility of society. Telecommunications is a key enabler of American Samoa's productivity, the economy, and society. And not only is telecom an industry in itself, but it also benefits nearly every other sector across the board. That's your foundation. You have to have it. That's one of your musts. So at the national level, as Michael had mentioned, the #1 strategic goal of the Federal Communications Commission is to close that digital divide, encouraging the regulatory environment and policies to be able to deploy advanced communication services at affordable prices. And American Samoa is continuously meeting this goal and progressing towards it, not just with infrastructure development and upgrades, but also with affordable prices. And it's comparable globally. We heard earlier that we once had the title of the most expensive internet probably in the world, but yes, in the region. But now if you look at it, we are comparable globally. And that was through the investment in all of your telecommunications developments. With Hawaii, of course, American Samoa now has some of the most affordable internet in the Pacific region. However, there is always a need to review our regulatory and regulations and policies to reflect the realities of our current marketplace, to promote entrepreneurship, to expand economic opportunities and remove barriers, and doing all of this safely and securely. So protecting our consumers and the public safety. And with Hawaii, American Samoans can be creators of content, not just users. It is a pleasure to be working in American Samoa once again, and as part of a public-private partnership to collaborate with all of you on formulating strategies for American Samoa's territorial broadband strategy. We will be building on existing strategies that are already there, that have been developed for different sectors in American Samoa, and plans that have existed over many years and developed by local people with local knowledge, prioritizing local needs, and as well as learning and compiling new ones. So the planning process and developing of these strategies for a territorial broadband strategy will take place over the next 8 months. And we are asking and enlisting everyone's help in throughout this process. So our team, in collaboration with local government, the University of Hawaii, and SH3, will be reaching out to all sectors through a local working group that will be established to facilitate this process. So with that, very excited to be working with all of you, and thank you very much. Okay, so I think I have the pleasure to introduce our next speaker. So I wanted to check in with Miss Anna Reed. Yep, I do see Anna. All right, so Anna Reed is a research officer for Pew's Broadband Research Initiative. And before joining Pew, she was a senior research associate at the American Planning Association and worked as a project manager on regional broadband planning efforts for Missouri's Office of Administration. Reed holds a bachelor's degree from Bryn Mawr College and a master's degree in regional planning from Cornell. Anna Reed.
Great, thank you, and good morning, or I guess good afternoon where I am. And thanks for the invitation to join this event today. So I wanted to just start by, commenting again on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and on highlighting the need for broadband and really bringing increased attention to this issue and where gaps exist. But it's also really accelerated the use of broadband across a number of different sectors or different areas, including education, telework, healthcare, and access to services. And so it's highlighted, both the need for broadband, but also opportunities to use broadband and where we can really make use of that technology in areas that have often been talked about as future use cases, but have really become things that we're now doing currently, as opposed to thinking about how we might use broadband as a tool to enable those in the future. So a little bit of background on Pew's Broadband Research Initiative. The Pew Charitable Trust is a nonprofit, nonpartisan research institution, and we've been focusing on broadband for about 2 years. And primarily what we've been looking at is how states are addressing challenges or gaps in broadband access. We examined broadband policy and programmatic activity across all 50 states, and from there we did in-depth case studies focusing on 9 states. Through that research, we identified a set of what we call promising practices. So there are a set of activities that we see across all of those 9 states that we looked at more in depth. While the implementation of those activities, the exact way that states are addressing those challenges may be different. They're kind of engaged in these 5 core fundamental activities. And that's true for states that are in different phases of their projects, that have different levels of resources, and that are addressing or facing slightly different challenges, whether that be of geography, of resource level, of provider landscapes, things like that. So those 5 practices that we identified are stakeholder outreach and engagement, which really is kind of foundational to the rest of the practices. Establishing a policy framework, planning and capacity building, which is what I'll focus on a bit more. And then funding and operations for states. Most states are primarily focused on the broadband deployment aspect. And then the evaluation of those programmatic activities and informing the next steps. So with the planning and capacity building, what we see are states establishing plans at the state level, and then also supporting local level planning efforts. So focusing primarily at the state level. Those plans provide opportunities to assess, what the needs are and identify, define goals and objectives, and identify priority areas for the use of broadband, which I think Michael touched on what the objectives and some of those priority areas are in his opening remarks. But, we frequently see states prioritizing goals related to both expanding access and then the adoption elements, but then those specific sectors where they can see an impact from the availability of expanded broadband, whether that be economic development or education, healthcare, workforce development opportunities for telework, or attracting telework, or entrepreneurial startup activity that may be facilitated by the availability of broadband. And then identifying those action steps to help achieve those goals and objectives. And then you know, it also provides an opportunity, especially at the more local level, for reviewing some of those regulations or existing assets that may help facilitate broadband expansion. And the state level plans can really provide a framework for more local level activity. But separate from the plan, or related to the plan, while the plan document itself is important, you know, provides that framework for moving forward, the goal, the objectives, what we really found was that the planning process itself is incredibly important. And the process, you know, it engages the community, it engages various stakeholder groups within the community, and then it can also play a very important educational component. It can be very important to educating local elected officials and community members about both the infrastructure itself, you know, what broadband is, why it's needed, and then also sort of what the potential for that infrastructure is, what you can do with it. And then the planning process can also help build consensus or buy-in around those goals, and that really helps, you know, achieve what's outlined in the plan as states or communities move forward with the implementation. And then it also the planning process can also be really important for building that capacity, that knowledge base. So just to kind of summarize, you know, as we looked across states, we really found that the engagement in planning and those planning efforts was really fundamental to closing gaps in broadband access, making productive use of the broadband infrastructure that was available. And so you know, we'll be happy to take any questions during the Q&A segment or in the chat.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, so a friendly reminder. So if you do have any questions, please utilize the chat function. We do have someone monitoring that, and we will compile the questions at the end of each segment. So 2 more speakers, then we go into a Q&A. So that's our format. So I'll go ahead and queue up our next speaker. Mr. Mike Bucks is the co-founder and co-CEO of UpGuard, a global cybersecurity company headquartered in Hobart, Australia. Prior to founding UpGuard in 2012, Mike worked in senior technology and M&A roles for financial institutions such as ANZ, Global Banking Group, and Commonwealth Bank of Australia, leading teams in technology and strategy. So UpGuard protects hundreds of organizations, including NASA, the New York Stock Exchange, Accenture, and HP. With an unrivaled track record, UpGuard is also renowned for discovering and securing a multitude of data breaches implicating institutions such as Facebook, Amazon, the Republic National Committee, and Aggregated IQ. So Mike is also Samoan and currently lives in Tasmania, Australia. Mike?
Mahalo, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to attend. It's a pleasure. I always love talking about Samoa. I rarely get an opportunity to do so, but it's wonderful being here and getting to see the country changing dramatically, which is fantastic. I was invited to talk about innovation just generally, and it kind of occurred to me that like I've been in this role now for a number of years. I lived in Silicon Valley for about 6 years. And I've seen a lot of it in lots of different forms. I've seen it in a really good state. I've seen it fail. I've seen it not work so well. And I've seen it, like after a lot of hard work, take off. So that's fantastic. But I think when I look at like Samoa, American Samoa, and the Pacific Islands broadly, strategically, you have just made one of the biggest jumps into the future you could imagine. The ability now for commerce, for education, really implies that like American Samoa now is a position where you can really take advantage of a whole heap of other domestic opportunities that you traditionally wouldn't probably think about. The call center initiative that I just saw Michael present prior, or sorry, maybe not Michael, but I saw prior is a classic example of being able to take, you know, fantastic English-speaking resources and being able to create a community around it that's remote, that's fast, that's efficient, and that more importantly generates jobs, income, and stability for local resources. So being able to see that clearly means that, first of all, that this is something that you guys are tangentially aware of, I'm sure, but more importantly, strategically focused on, which is fantastic to see. But I really want to talk about the future and kind of the things that, you know, the opportunities present, and then really some of the opportunities that you can take advantage of probably today. What you're beginning to see with COVID occur is that a lot of people are now beginning to take advantage of working from home, right? We're also seeing companies like Twitter, like Facebook, Google, all of these organizations are now beginning to realize that these principles of working from home are achievable and still allow you to be able to get an amazing return on investment on the investments you make in your people organizations. So what we're beginning to see is that realization occur really, really quickly. And I think Anna touched on that just briefly before. But really what it means now is that Samoans with fantastic English-speaking skills, as always, now are able to have an equalizer with the ability to be able to apply for companies like that, really get to the forefront of this type of innovation and put yourself forwards in order to be able to take advantage of the opportunities and cascade that information down to the wider populations and communities that you participate in. So that's fantastic. The second thing to consider is now whilst American Samoa in particular has always looked at the United States and the close aligned segments of the Pacific, it means that you can now start thinking further than that. It means that there are other opportunities in Southeast Asia, in Europe, that now become accessible, whereas before, because of bandwidth constraint, quite often it would be very difficult to communicate. And a lot of organizations in those territories need support locally so that they can actually support their businesses. So the amazing opportunities that are coming from a commercial sense are fantastic. But really, I think where the foundational set is the focus on digital education. And really now the focus traditionally on picking up and going to the mainland and then having to get educated and then hopefully coming back to something is going to be very different in the future. The ability to acquire a high quality education online through institutions like Harvard, Oxford, all of these different institutions now have materials that can be cascaded and more importantly taken advantage of for the betterment of your own community. So that's fantastic to see. But really what it means is that in 10 to 20 years from now, the American Samoa that you know now will be very, very different. And I would probably suggest that you'll see greater skill sets with regards to global opportunity. So people taking senior roles in larger organizations around the world and being able to compete pound for pound with a person from the Netherlands or from Germany or from Australia, but being able to do that from somewhere like Samoa, because the bandwidth was traditionally the constraint. Now you have the access and the opportunity. The second thing to consider around this point is it's just the opportunity to be able to experience different cultures and share that amongst the community. As Samoans, we're always talking about the Samoa and the implications of that in the global context. What you can now do is you can now share that belief structure across the world. That is something that most cultures don't really comprehend, but I'm proud to say as a Samoan, I've seen it, participated in it, and whilst like it's been a long time since I've had it around me, the more important thing is that as a Samoan, it's always there, and I think that cultural aspect can be shared dramatically to the benefit of the whole world, and I don't think people quite understand that yet. The last thing that I'll leave you with is that on innovation itself, innovation really comes from the soul and the ability to see a problem and resolve it. I think that Samoans are very soulful. And as a result of that, there is a lot of opportunities to be able to create, iterate, and more importantly, get to market a lot of these ideas and concepts. So I think that if you kind of look at our history of being able to navigate and really understand where we're heading, I think the future for Samoa and American Samoa in particular now is one that should be exciting and should be relished in, because the strategic choice you've made to connect, to be part of this, and more importantly, to give the population access to this information is going to be dramatic. It's not without its challenges, but taking that first dramatic step and navigating it successfully, I know is at our core. And I'm proud to say that it's only a matter of time before it begins to wash across. So with that, I just want to again say, firstly, thank you for having me here. More importantly, I'm very, very keen to see how this develops. And I'm very proud as a Samoan to see now that you're enabled and that you're on the stage and you can compete, because it's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Our next speaker is Mr. Maui Sanford. Maui provides consulting services and expert services to operators, regulators, service providers, and suppliers in the ICT and telecommunications areas. He lives in Tahiti, French Polynesia, and holds a law degree. Maui has been in the telecom industry for over 30 years, including these key decision-making and managerial positions. And he's actively contributed to many major projects for improving connectivity, not just in French Polynesia, but also across the Pacific in both satellite and submarine cables. He was also president of the Pacific Islands Telecom Association, or PITA. And more recently, Maui was part of the team who worked on the Hawaii cable to American Samoa. Maui?
Yes, sir. Hello, everybody. Do you hear me? Yes? Okay, Yorana. That's how we say hello in Tahiti. So it's a cloudy day today, but I can see everybody is happy. So distance and weather doesn't change anything. Really good to be here today. First of all, thank you, Michael, Ginger, and the team for inviting me to attend this and participate to this webinar. This is a word today. I don't like that word anyway, but that's the way it's said. And also a special hello to all my friends in Azteca and also in Vodafone now, American Samoa. Yes, so I will be very brief because I know my time will be 7 minutes rather than 10 minutes, so we can finish on time. So I really wanted to share with you my perception of the Pacific, and then of course we'll focus on American Samoa case and the future. These are the three parts of my talk. The first one is broadband in the Pacific. So first of all, there are huge differences about, it was mentioned many cases about that time of frustration, which is finished today for most people in American Samoa. But don't guess, it is a reality in many other Pacific islands. At peak hours, that was Vanuatu last year, hence is proved now. PNG, many others have dozens of kilobits at peak hours. So you share like a tap of water for 100 people. That's actually the image I could give. So you couldn't do anything almost using the internet, both for residential, for private communications, but also and more difficult for businesses. So another figure that we need to have in mind, and that's not the case in American Samoa, but all over the Pacific, all cables that has been installed for more than 10 years are less than 1% used. So I did a presentation at PTC in Hawaii in January, and actually I shared that with the whole industry, and everybody was, what? It's not possible. This is reality. All pipes costing, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars are not used more than 1%. Things are changing, especially with the events we had recently, and we are still in trying to come back to normal due to COVID-19. But everybody has a plan to expand the network, the communication network. Also, one question you may say, oh, why it's so slow in many other Pacific Islands? Usually, local network is there. Everybody talks about 4G, it's implemented. The domestic network is important, but the bottleneck is actually the international. Even though the cable is there, there is a kind of, that's my perception, of psychological barrier of opening the pipes. It's like, wow, maybe it's cyber criminality, fear. I don't really know why it's not happening. I think there are some commercial, logic, maybe it's not the correct word, but commercial dimension to it between telcos. But as we can see, and I was really proud to be part of the team, in American Samoa, we did the other way, changed the whole philosophy. On day one, open 10% of the capacity we had. And we made it. And, Pule was with us at that time. So he must be smiling today. So it's a reality today. And that's why American Samoa is the most connected country today in the Pacific. Another dimension which is also has to be mentioned is that very soon American Samoa will have access to 2 other routes. One existing through the SAS cable going to Samoa, then you can go to Fiji on the TUI Samoa cable. But very soon, in 2 weeks, technically maybe it'll take another few weeks to implement it, the Mandatua cable. So you guys can be connected to my country directly through, of course, a few cables very soon. So things are moving, and now we cannot talk of, when we talk about broadband, I really believe it's a multilateral platform. We cannot talk only, we are not isolated. We are committed to connect to others. And regarding the infrastructure, I'm really proud today that American Samoa has infrastructure to make it happening, but that's why we are here today, how to make it happening. Usually in the past, everybody, every consumer, politicians, everybody was blaming the telecom operators. I remember my friend Astika, I remember my friend in Blue Sky at that time, blaming them, internet's no good, internet no good. Now, no more. Now, what can you fill in the pipes? So the telcos are not by themselves. Now, everybody has to create content, create applications to go beyond the commercial dimension of telecom. The future, I really believe, again, the future is to interconnect with all the Pacific. Of course, English is the most common language around the Pacific. I'm living in Tahiti, so French is my basic language as well as Tahitian. However, I really think we could take this opportunity to revive those, the Polynesian language, Melanesian language, everything, with the University of Hawaii, with the Maori, with the University of New Zealand. There are so many resources existing today that we just should do not reinvent the wheel. Definitely agree with you all. Structure, have a strategy, a roadmap, an action plan, which is key. If not, you go nowhere. And I really believe that's we are blessed to have all those options available. And so I will not be longer. I think we could raise, I can answer to questions in the near future. But as a conclusion, I could say really that now the era of pure telecom, commercial with telecom is not ending, but the business is definitely important for the telecom industry to be viable. However, we really, I think, need to go beyond that and consider the user. What can the user and also the citizen benefit of? We've been talking about health, education, all those different domains. This is all focused to how to be useful to the user in everybody's country. Thank you.
Thank you, Maui. Thank you to our 3 speakers this segment, and we had an extra speaker there with you, Maui. I'm going to open it up for some questions. So 1 or 2 questions for our speakers. So I'll check in first with our operator if we have any questions on chat. And Tafa, do we have any questions on chat?
Yes, so we have a question from Dimitri asking a question about, since we have bandwidth, can we get long distance calls with USA at the local rates?
Thank you for that question. I'll actually table that question. If we have any questions directly to our speakers, and then we can come back to some of these when we open it up for discussions with the local carriers as well. And there's an opportunity for those general questions as well.
Yeah, I'm keen to answer a bit of it. Maybe I'll let my other friends involved also in telecom industry to be able to respond. My views is, today, the example is me at home. it's sad, but yes, the other day, because I'm in quarantine at home, I came back after 3 months. I was locked in Bali, came back home, and now I'm at home. And they asked me, "Oh, you can be at home only if you have a fixed phone." I said, "Oh, wow, I don't have any fixed phone since a year now. I have internet fixed, I have mobile, so I'm going to get a fixed handset." So easy. For safety reasons, it's important to have it. So coming back to the question about traditional voice, today, everybody, even on the smaller handset, uses whatever applications, WhatsApp, everything. Have in mind that this comes, which are typically free. This was the main revenue streams for telecom operators. So they had to find other ways to survive. So it's not that easy. We have the time of the callbacks long time ago. Now we have the Skype, WhatsApp. You can name them, Messenger, and actually the response is there. You have tools to make free calls. However, with the cable connectivity, what can be done is you could really have HD communication provided by the telecom operators. These are some other possibilities coming back. But to the question, can it lower? I mean, you have already free communications, but it's sometimes so easy to take your phone up and call. So I'll let the other players to answer that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maui, for the response. Any other questions? I'll open it up now to our group. You are welcome to unmute yourself and come online if you would like to ask a question.
Hey, hi, this is Mike. Thanks, Ginger. I just wanted to ask Mike, since he's still online, if there are young folks out here, and young can be anywhere from elementary school up through your 20s, maybe even your 30s, but if you had one recommendation on how best to approach using this new resource, what would that be? I know it's a broad question, but your talk earlier was fantastic, and I think it was very inspirational, and so we want to tap into that if we could.
It's a great question and a really broad question, Michael. So I think look, if you're younger, like you tend to, like I always say, like the reason the way I got into all of this was by playing video games. Now that's for some parents in the call, it's horrible, right? But for me, like learning how to play a video game, learning how to want to play it with my friends, taught me how to do networking over time. It taught me how to code over time. It taught me process and logic and procedural background. So I always find that, like when I'm talking to my kids, they play a lot of games, and like at some point I kind of like think to myself, oh geez, like what have I done? But I can see it happening now where they're becoming more interested in like building stuff in Minecraft or writing a script to do something. So I think those little skills like eventually build up, and we've got a really digitally aware generation in front of us now, which is fantastic. But I think being able to translate those skills and synthesize them into high quality communication is probably the biggest barrier for most people that we meet and we interview. So I think that if you've got that foundation of being really interested in something enough to understand its digital appeal and setting it up for groups to communicate and play with, for example, in games, and then taking that and synthesizing that into increasing the quality of the communications, and then at the same time thinking about how they would want to improve it, I think that's always a great baseline. And then there are so many resources online. But yeah, at a younger age, I'd say, yeah, play Minecraft and learn how to script in it. And then I'd say play different games and then start networking, and then, yeah, get drawn into the community because you're interested in it naturally. And if you love it, then you'll kind of end up in it. So that's the path I took. But yeah, if you can take that, translate it with high quality communication, it's very good. Hope that kind of gives you a sense. Probably not the answer you're looking for though.
All right, so thank you very much to our three speakers, Anna, Mike, and Maui. Thank you so much for spending the time with us and sharing some of your perspectives in this field. Right now, you are welcome to disconnect, or you're welcome to enjoy with us the rest of the sessions. But thank you again so much. Everybody, we can do reactions. Give me some reactions, folks, on Facebook. Thumbs up and some.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, so our next speaker is Dr. Ledua. Dr. Ledua is the current chief of orthopedics at the LBJ Hospital. Before moving to American Samoa, Dr. Ledua's had a wide range of education in Fiji and New Zealand and Australia. He was a major in the Fiji military and eventually chief medical officer and commanding officer at the Fiji Military Hospital in Suva. Dr. Ledua concurrently spent a year as senior medical officer of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon. Dr. Ledua spent the second half of the 1990s as a civilian orthopedist in several Fiji hospitals before moving to American Samoa and working at LBJ since 2003. Since then, he has held various administrative capacity, including being division head of his field, and has been a key a champion to many telehealth efforts in American Samoa and at LBJ. With that, Dr. Ledua.
Thank you, Ginger. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mike, for the invitation to talk this morning and to give an update on telehealth initiatives here in American Samoa. Since I started work here in LBJ Medical Center 18 years ago, the only telehealth program that we were conducting was the telemedicine that we do with Shriners Hospital for Children in Honolulu, Hawaii, where we make and do patient consultation and follow up for all our pediatric orthopedic cases and burns. I will be talking on the existing telehealth programs, and then later on I will talk on the progress that is on right now with a major project that is coming up here in American Samoa. Our existing telehealth programs are mainly programs that is conducted at LBJ Hospital. I know Department of Health have got their own telehealth programs that they are doing, but the project that I will be talking about later in this presentation is the project that will involve both LBJ Hospital, Department of Health, and other community stakeholders. So 18 years ago, it was mainly patient consultation and patient follow-ups with the Shriners Hospital for Children in Honolulu, Hawaii, mainly for orthopedic cases and burns. About 2 to 3 years ago, we have expanded our telehealth services to continuous medical education updates and also case presentations. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Hawaii State Rural Health Association and Project ECHO for sharing this initiative and this great opportunity with us. So for the continuous medical education updates and case presentation, we can go to the next slide, please, Ginger.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay, there you go. Right, so for this project ECHO, it includes a pediatric ECHO program, and this is in collaboration with the Hawaii State Rural Health Association. And this medical education and updates and case presentation is done twice a month. In addition to that pediatric program, we also have the behavioral health tele-ECHO clinic, which is done every Tuesdays. Sometimes it is a challenge for us at LBJ because it might coincide with a busy clinic time for our physicians. So a few times when the physicians are available, they do tune in and connect to these medical education programs that is available. Next slide, please. Another program that is going on right now is the Pacific Islands Gastroenterology Session, which is conducted once a month, every third Tuesday of the month. And this program has been possible through the partnership with the Fiji National University and for the Telecommunication Resource Center in Hawaii with Ginger and Tim. And since COVID-19 started, we have stopped the gastroenterology session and shifted that program, that session, to the COVID-19 webinar. And that has been going on in the last few weeks, where we share the thoughts, the resources, and what each Pacific Island nations are doing in terms of management and the strategy in the care of COVID-19 in their respective countries. Next slide, please. Okay, another program that is ongoing is the US-affiliated Pacific Islands Regional Cancer Program. And this is possible through collaboration with the Pacific Regional Comprehensive Cancer Control Program and the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health at the John Burns School of Medicine, University of Hawaii. This has been going on since last year. Next slide, please. The other program, which is the ECHO program that has been going on, is the diabetes in the time of COVID-19. This program just started, as I said, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is in collaboration with Stanford University and John Burns School of Medicine. We are now into the 5th session. We are having a 16-session program with this project, and we are going on now with the 5th session, which is going on this week. So we have 11 more sessions left with this program. Next slide, please. This is the project that is right now in process. It is called the Pacific Telemedicine Network. It is a USDA distance learning telehealth funded rural development grant. The grant was approved in January of 2019. And this grant provides clinical equipment for LBJ Medical Center and 9 community sites. And these community sites includes most of the Department of Health outpatient clinics, the American Samoa Community College Nursing Program, and our emergency medical services. This project is meant to link these community sites and LBJ Hospital to care resources and specialists which are available in California. And the primary hub of this project is the Ventura County Medical Center in California. This program is headed by Dr. Chris Landon, who is the medical director of this program. He's also the director of Landon Pediatric Foundation. And the education director is Mr. Timothy Tyndall. He is the network director for this program, and he is also the director of the Rain Live Oak Telemedicine Network in California. I have been the contact person here in American Samoa, and I'm trying to get this project moving forward and faster. I know there has been a delay in moving forward with this. So I would really like to get this project moving forward sooner, especially at this time where telehealth services, this kind of programs is very important in connecting with hospitals and with facilities that can assist us with the care of our patients. I would also like to take this time to thank Dr. Dimitri Olansky from LBJ Medical Center, as I am transitioning the telehealth services in American Samoa, at LBJ Hospital to him before I move on, before I move off island. So he will take up this project, and I will be looking forward to the day that we will start with this project. Thank you, Ginger.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ladua, for the update. I'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Moana Harituku. Moana is currently the CEO and founder of a private venture capital firm called Manatize Ventures. Moana is a graduate of Tafuna High School and has served in the U.S. Air Force for 8 years. Moana and his wife built a business career in the real estate investing and property management industries with several successful companies in Maryland and Washington, D.C. Moana has also built companies in the food, entertainment, recreation, fundraising, fitness and health, apparel, education, and venture capital industries, and has sold over $3 million worth of businesses. Moana?
Yeah, I'm here, Ginger. Can you hear me? All right, I'll go ahead and start, guys. I know I don't have too much time. I'll just say next when I'm ready for the next slide. So again, we are just a little more background. I'm somebody that is coming back from the States. It wasn't a plan that we had. You know, about 6 months ago, I started making trips back to American Samoa. And I'll tell you the honest truth, it's the youth that is bringing me back. I see so many youth here, and I'd hope that the opportunities available to them would be a lot more at this point in time. I graduated 20 years ago here in American Samoa. And for that reason, I decided to come back and try my hand at helping with business and opportunities for employment, mostly for youth, young adults here in American Samoa. Higher Growth is a company that is planning, again, so we're still in the planning phases of coming to American Samoa. We have a building here. We have the opportunity. The internet obviously is here. That's what we're talking about right now. Now it's just a matter of answering the question of whether or not American Samoa is providing an environment that will make it so that businesses will want to come to American Samoa. So we can go to the next slide. So with what's going on right now in American Samoa with the partnership between DOC, Cloud Solutions, and ASTCA, I mean, they're pioneers in what our governor has been wanting to happen on this island, and that's using this Hawaii cable for something that can produce more jobs, more revenue, more opportunity for the people in American Samoa. So the business process outsourcing company that we're bringing is actually going to be called Pacific Link here in American Samoa. It's already registered here. The issue is that, you know, just a few months ago, obviously COVID hit. Before that, in January, February, we actually flew in a couple of our partners, one of which owns a call center in the Philippines, which, in all honesty, if we're gonna try and compete in the landscape of business process outsourcing companies, we will compete directly with the Philippines. And we have to understand what that means and how Samoa can create a landscape that can compete against that. We also flew in a IT specialist, someone who works in business, home automation, using fiber optic, you know, all the fast internet. And we flew them both in just to get an idea of what they thought of how things are here. Louis Woolman, the former CEO of ASTCA, was gracious enough to let us shadow him, and he showed us, you know, the capabilities that we have here. And I don't even think we understand how good we have it here with Hawaii. The two gentlemen that we flew in, they turned around, you know, as they were leaving this island, they said, "Man, you guys have no idea what you guys have. You know, we can't get this in some areas of the United States. You know, the speeds and bandwidths that you have here." A couple concerns that they did have, I will talk about here in the next little bit. But let's move to the next slide. This is what we're all trying to do here is we're trying to bring to fruition what the governor had hoped for with bringing this cable to the island. You know, and I know he's gotten a lot of flack because of a lot of things haven't really, you know, come to play. But with these pioneers that have already started, you know, we have to follow suit and we have to act to make this happen in a bigger way and quicker. Next slide. So I'll go through a few things. I won't spend too much time on this. These are my partners right now. We have multiple partners. These are, we added another one. His name is James Clark. He actually owns one of the biggest call centers in Utah in the United States with over 2,000 employees. And a lot of people in America, even non-Polynesians, have been approaching us, you know, asking us what we're doing and why. My partner, Gabe Reed, who is also a son of Samoa, that's moving back his entire family to help in these endeavors. But a lot of them have been asking us, hey, what are you guys doing? How can we help? You know, and this gentleman here, James Clark, Gene Smith, a lot of them have been asking us, hey, can we be part of this? And for that reason, we have a lot of backing, a lot of financial backing, but the issue, and I'll be straightforward, the issue is the landscape right now and whether or not this is something that's going to be safe for us to open here with everything that's going on. Next slide. So I'll share just, these are rough numbers, kind of estimates on what we're looking at between us and the Philippines. I'll have you concentrate just on one line, and that's the cost of labor. The way we see things here, when you run the numbers between here and the Philippines, I was in the Philippines probably about 4 months ago and spent a good amount of time in Cebu going through business process outsourcing companies, multiple of them, to see how their layout is, what they're doing, their costs and whatnot. And we're falling behind at about 30 to 50% more in cost of labor compared to them. So a US company that would want to hire our BPO compared to one in the Philippines is going to save that much in labor costs, which is huge. But even with that, even with us facing that, we still feel we can make it happen here. Next slide. So fortunately, we've met with the governor, we've met with the DOC, we've met with ASTCA, and Gabe and I, we really do believe that with the help of the American Samoa government and with some tax breaks and some other areas where they can help us out with, that we could still make it a profitable endeavor. In all honesty, I don't see this as a huge profit center for Gabe and I, but obviously this is a passion project with us being from here and wanting to help our youth get into something better than they're doing right now. Okay, we know there's a lot of issues and we won't talk about those here on this call, but there are a lot of better things that they could be doing and we want to provide that for them. Now, these are some numbers as well that we believe are very conservative. If you look at the BPO world and how BPO centers grow, 100 employees within the first year is actually a pretty safe number. And we're actually looking at investing our own money and some of our partners' money into the island. And for that reason, again, even more so, we need the landscape to be such that we feel safe that this will actually work. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things that that we're very, very, very looking forward to is going to be some of these things, especially the one here on the bottom right. I can't tell you how many people since I've moved back have messaged me confused at why I'm here and why I came back because of what we made, what we created and built in the States. But I tell you right now, there are plenty of them that want to come home. But if we can't provide them an industry other than StarKiss that they can excel in and come in and take high positions in and make decent incomes in, they will not come back because they need to be able to provide for their families. And they want to come back. Okay. The other thing too is we want to retain local talent. I am one from the military. I love the military. I'll tell you right now that the unfortunate part of it is a lot of people use the military because it's the only option. And for those folks, I want to give them another option to come and work, not just in certain areas of the internet, but I'll show you on the next slide some things that I think are even more important or bigger opportunities that we have with what we're bringing. Next slide. So obviously with internet speeds, we're going to be able to do a lot of these things on the left with online type work. Okay. Business process outsourcing, like Mike McDonald said, is the low hanging fruit, right? But then we have a lot of other companies, medical billing, live security, surveillance monitoring. With the bandwidth that we have, we can actually do live surveillance monitoring security for companies in the United States, which now are requiring more of that than just an automated security system for businesses and residences. Social media marketing agencies. None of us on this call probably know more than most 16, 17-year-olds as far as how social media works. It's another huge industry right now that's making millions and millions of dollars in the States that our youth here can take part in. Amazon FBA management, even more so right now, is a big industry. Graphic design. I won't go through all of these. Some things that we may not think of though are, and these are other things that from a BPO can now stem other business opportunities and income, job opportunities like home and business security monitoring here. I'm not talking about putting up just a few cameras, and I'm talking about real monitoring alarm systems that alert the police, alert the ambulances, so that they can come and help. We don't have that here. but we have internet that can make that a reality. Remote access setup for anything, business, residences, networking, business process setup, total home automation. It's something that's huge in the United States. We're probably about 10, 15 years behind the States as far as this goes. But again, another $1 million industry. I'm not going to go too much further after this. I do want to share with you though, what some of the things that my my counterparts said when they took off on their flight. They said, hey, the biggest issue we see here in American Samoa is, one of the biggest issues is safety of our Hawaii cable system. For those of us who don't know, you know, the security of it is very poor. I can't put it any other way. There's not a lot of security, entry access to the facilities that control the Hawaii have very low security to no security. Whereas, you know, if you have facilities here in the States that are controlling these things and access to these things, they'd have a security monitor there. They'd have somebody there to make sure that nobody just enters or can break in and cut our line to all of this information or steal from it. Okay. But other than that, in the end, guys, respect the time. I'm just saying that right now at this point, I cannot pull the trigger on starting something here just because I've seen the Chamber of Commerce complain about this too, or just bring this concern up that, you know, if we're treating an industry that's leaving our island better than the industries that are trying to grow, are trying to come to this island, you're going to have a hard time convincing companies to come. And I'll leave it at that. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you to our last two speakers. We're actually going to push forward a little bit with our agenda. And I'd like to invite Michael for our next speaker, Michael McDonald.
Okay, thank you, Ginger. And thanks, Moana, for your talk as well. So moving on, our next speaker is Mr. Bert Lum. And Bert Lum is the State of Hawaii's strategy officer for the Hawaiian Broadband Initiative, dedicated to ensuring that Hawaii establishes a robust and resilient connectivity to the global broadband network. His work, it also includes broadband policy work and community collaborations. He has more than 30 years in Hawaii's technology and communications sector. At the city and county of Honolulu, he's worked with the city council on their digital initiative, including establishing Honolulu as a Bloomberg Philanthropies What Works City. And since 2008, he also produces and hosts a weekly science and technology show on Hawaii Public Radio. And also, Bert facilitates a hui, and perhaps he'll mention this a little bit later, but there's a weekly hui or gathering just like this that takes place in Hawaii. And I was connected to Bert about 2 months ago through the folks at Broadband USA, and it's been fantastic to sit in on those conversations, Bert. I learned a great deal. I'm still learning every day, but that's why I've asked you to come in and share a little bit more about what you do. So, Bert, the floor is yours.
Aloha, 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 everybody, and thanks, Michael and Ginger, for including me in this great gathering. I mean, I think, you know, one of the things that I think would be something to point out is the fact that, you know, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I mean, the likelihood of all of us, all 50 to 60 people from all over the Pacific, you know, meeting at the same time in a virtual room would never happen. I mean, even Michael, you know, my broadband hui, I would never be able to get all those people at the same time physically in the same room. So, you know, there's a lot of benefit that I think we can learn from how we can actually bring people together and collaborate together, and then take projects that potentially come out of, you know, these interactions to the next level. And that's where true, I think, innovation occurs. So what I'll do, and I'll try to do this really quickly, you know, over the next 5 minutes, is just kind of go through what we're doing here in terms of the broadband initiative. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but, you know, keep in mind, we are still at the beginning levels at what we're trying to do here in Hawaii. And I need to preface this with the fact that, you know, Hawaii's been doing this broadband initiative probably for the last 12 years. So it's a long time. And so as much as, you know, I like to think that we're moving things along, you know, it's a slow process for us. And I think what you folks are doing is a great start. And it's all about persevering and just kind of keep at it and stay focused, and, you know, you'll start to move the needle. And that's kind of what we're doing, just trying to stay focused and move the needle. So I'll go to the next slide. So you don't have to read all the words. I'll try to read the words. So I think it's actually going over the part I wanted to read, but so the broadband initiative is to really ensure connectivity, subsea and terrestrial, to the global internet, and make sure that it's robust and resilient to create an international hub here in Hawaii. That's kind of our mission. The vision for the broadband initiative is to establish Hawaii as a leader and forward thinker in enabling all its citizens, businesses, and international community with the communications infrastructure to be competitive in the global marketplace. So this is kind of a bold statement, and it's trying to be inclusive. So it's trying to be inclusive for not only the corporates and the, you know, the big pipe users, but also how do we include everybody all the way to, you know, rural and disenfranchised communities. Next slide. So you are all very well aware of this diagram, and you know, you'll see Hawaii in there in the middle, and you know, the situation that we're facing is that a lot of those cables you might look at and say, oh yeah, you guys are really well connected, but a lot of those cables are reaching their 20 to 25 year end of life. And the two new cables that are coming into Hawaii, Hawaiki is one of them, and CUS is the other one. We are pretty heavily dependent on the Southern Cross cable as well, and that one is reaching its 20-year life. So, you know, but I've talked to the Southern Cross folks, and they're not planning to land in Hawaii again for probably the next 5 years. And then if you look at the north side of the Pacific, you see all those cables that are going from Asia to the West Coast. And those are cables from Facebook and Google and Amazon, and they are basically all bypassing Hawaii. So we do have a scenario where, you know, Hawaii will not be able to have the kind of capacity we would like to see in order to be competitive and be a very active player on the global internet. Next slide. So one of the projects that has been kind of consuming my time and attention is the focus of the broadband initiative has been on the idea of building cable landing infrastructure. And so if you look at the 4 major islands, we're looking at cable infrastructure that makes the availability of infrastructure that makes the cable landing easier. So you got Big Island, you got Maui, you got Oahu, and you got Kauai. And what I am proposing, and we've done this, you know, for the last 3 years, and the challenge for us is appropriating the money to actually build this, is, you know, can we build the cabling infrastructure? And this is like the horizontal bores. We do all the permitting, we do all the surveys, we identify the land. We are building the on-ramps into the state of Hawaii. And we are trying to do this in conjunction with a project that's coming up from South America. So this company called Ocean Networks is actually bringing the South American Pacific Link from the west coast of South America. They also have legs into Central America as well as over to Florida. And they want to run a cable up to Hawaii. And so from a timing standpoint, are we able to build the infrastructure that enables the landing of those cables to be made easier for a project like South American Pacific Link to come into Hawaii. So again, this is building, trying to get government to support the building of infrastructure so that cables could more easily land here. And that was identified as one of the key strategic infrastructure pieces from our strategic plan, which was only published like back in 2012, and we're actually working on an update right now. So you can equate this like an airport or a harbor or even roads. In the digital economy, broadband is the infrastructure that enables digital commerce to take place, and these cable landings, as you well know, are the way that your communities can access the global broadband network. So can we figure out a way to lower the barrier for some of those cables to actually land here? And this serves a number of key purposes, not only helping to reduce the barrier for the Trans-Pacific cables, but also how do we build a more robust and resilient inter-island fiber network? And in the inter-island fiber arrangement, the situation is that 2 of the systems are at their 25-year age limit, and the third one, called Sandwich Isles, is in bankruptcy. So it's a very fragile situation. And our island, Kauai, was recently, they had a total island-wide outage of all telephone and internet access as a result of one of those old 25-year cables breaking. So, this infrastructure that I'm proposing has multiple applications and multiple value propositions for Hawaii to be to build a resilient backbone for us to participate on the global internet. Next slide. So one of the things that I try to emphasize is that I'm not just looking at cable landings, because as much as that is important in trying to make sure that Hawaii stays connected to the global network, I also have an eye on things like terrestrial backhaul. How do we connect from the cable landing to key high content aggregation points like data centers? So that's terrestrial backhaul. How do we get from the cable landing to those facilities? There is the advancement of wireless technologies now, and the sort of the coming of 5G with small cell deployment. You have inter-island fiber. As I just mentioned, we are in a very fragile situation with the current inter-island fiber options. So can we build a more robust, resilient inter-island infrastructure to make sure that we have diverse routes? And of course, how do we connect our rural communities? It's not just bringing the big fat pipes in, but how do we connect all the communities throughout Hawaii with internet access and broadband connectivity? Next slide. So Mike brought this up, and this is something that we started back in March, which as much as I am very concerned about the pandemic and its effect on Hawaii in terms of our economy, what it did was it shone a spotlight on how we depend on connectivity for everything, especially if we're going to be sheltered at home. So it brought a big spotlight on all the people that are, whether it's students that are now at home, or whether it's parents that are working from home, or whether you're trying to deliver healthcare, or if you're trying to do access to government services. How are you going to do that? And so in early March, we started to figure, we better pull people together and start talking about, and the first couple of meetings revolved around education. And how do we understand what students are not connected, and how can we come up with ways to better connect them? So there were some short-term, near-term solutions everything from Wi-Fi on wheels and how do we get, refurbished computers out to them, and how do we address things like community networks and digital literacy. So those were some of the things that the HUI brought together. And over the course of the last 13 weeks, and Mike, you've been a part of that, those weekly meetings. It's an average of about 40, somewhere between 40 and 50 people that we have, and we have everybody from the carriers. Okay, so we got Hawaiian Telecom, we got Charter, we got the wireless folks. We also have participation from the school systems like the DOE. We have Kamehameha Schools. We have University of Hawaii, and we have many of the nonprofits that are supporting some of these efforts. And we basically bring everybody together and sort of keep them posted with the near-term projects, projects that are more maybe midterm. We talk about policy issues. Our legislative session is going to reconvene in a couple of days on Monday. So the legislators are even participating in this call, and they're interested in what can they do to help the situation. So the thing that I want to point out is that normally many of us would be kind of working in our silos and not necessarily having the opportunity to meet with each other, and through the situation we're now encountering with the pandemic, it would be rare to actually have all the carriers come in and actually talk about what they're trying to do. So Hawaiian Tel has been talking about their fiber run to Hana. We've got Charter, coming on, and they share some of their grant programs. And this is done for everybody. This is done on a very voluntary basis. It's done in a collaborative mode. And again, the agenda, everybody has their own agendas, and everybody has their their business agendas. But when we try to bring the HUI together, it's all about how do we collectively come together and advance Hawaii for us to be better in the uncertain future that we are now encountering. So how can we get together and how can we make things better as a collective? And I think that's what you have as an opportunity with the group that you've just convened. So I would applaud you, and I'm happy to participate in any way I can to learn from what you folks are going through. And it's a great opportunity to take the people that are involved to come up with solutions, innovate, figure out ways that they can take American Samoa to the next level. And that's what the convening is all about, and the collaboration. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk story with you, and I'm more than happy to support your efforts going forward.
Yeah, Mahalo, Bert, thank you very much. We appreciate that. I again appreciate the invitation to join your HUI. It's been a learning experience. And I just want to make one quick comment, if I may, Ginger. That graphic of the islands of Hawaii and what Bert is working towards, the interconnectivity between these islands. Someone said this earlier, and I'll say it again here. We already have that. All of our islands are connected by fiber optic submarine cables, right? And then plugged right into Hawaii. And so we already have what Bert is trying to accomplish. And so it's important that we realize that again. Now, with that said, there is one exception, and I know this is a temporary exception. We got an email last night, a fa'amole, if you will, from William Thompson. William is in Manua, and I understand that there is an issue with the submarine cable between, I believe, Ta'u and Ofun Olasenga. And so they have some challenges right now in getting their level of connectivity back up to where the rest of the islands are at. And so for our Azteca friends who are online, I'm passing along that message. They're waiting. I know you guys are working hard, but we cannot forget our brothers and sisters out there in the Manua Islands. So with that said, we'll move on to our next speaker. And our next speaker, of course, needs no introduction. Congresswoman Aumua Amata Coleman Radowagan is our next speaker. And as you all know, Amata is the first woman to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives from American Samoa, first Republican woman of Samoan descent in Congress, and the highest elected Asian Pacific Republican office holder. Amata, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. Malo so fua. E matalasi fo I mea mamana. A tasi lava le atua. O le na te matuanga lua I mea uma I tangata uma lava. Tasi kornito sfulua fai upu ono. Talofa. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Governor Lolo, Department of Commerce officials, and ASG officials, and indeed all of the participants in this really exciting forum today. Thank you so much for including me. I'm just delighted to be here. As I'm speaking to you from Coconut Point, I'm reminded how far we've come in this age of technology. Making the most of this wonderful new technology is a top priority in Congress. The federal government is enthusiastically promoting and supporting development of new broadband technologies and new ways to use these technologies, not only for economic development, but education and healthcare applications. Telecommunications connect our remote location to the outside world. Both our local Veterans Affairs Clinic and LBJ Hospital, as Dr. Lendua was speaking earlier, rely on that connection, allowing telehealth and consultation with other healthcare professionals on the mainland, an important topic I know you'll be discussing much more. Because of these changes, American Samoa is no longer quite so isolated and distant. We are right there on screen. I'm encouraged and excited by this Territorial Broadband Strategy Initiative being launched today. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you for this initiative, and I'll do all I can to support your efforts. As you develop your planning for telecommunications, as was mentioned earlier, security will always be a concern. On Monday of this week, I co-sponsored a bill to help provide new levels of security and to help lower costs. That new legislation is the USA Telecommunications Act of 2020. It would also create the Wireless Supply Chain Innovation Grant Program at the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. This plan would distribute up to $750 million nationally in grants to support the deployment and use of 5G networks in America. I know American Samoa is mostly an LTE market, but 5G is in the future, and we should always be preparing. Another important federal program, is the Connect America Fund, designed to ensure that consumers in high-cost areas have access to modern communications networks, capable of providing voice and broadband service at rates that can compare to those in urban areas. The program allows eligible carriers who serve these areas to recover some of their costs from the Federal Universal Service Fund. Universal service is the principle that all Americans should have access to communications services. Universal service is also the name of a fund and the category of FCC programs and policies to implement this principle. These policies have helped make telephone service available even in rural or remote areas, such as right here in American Samoa. Today, the FCC recognizes high-speed internet as the 21st century's essential communications technology, working to make broadband as available as voice while continuing to support voice service. Once again, I want to commend you for your initiative to develop a true territorial broadband strategy. I encourage you to be familiar with the many federal programs to help fund your strategies and to apply for that funding. And I stand by to assist in any way possible. I recently saw a 2016 report showing that there were 17,000 internet users here in American Samoa. Well, I'm sure that number has grown dramatically since then, especially since the connection of the Hawaii cable to our island-wide broadband. Very, very cool. As always, my office doors are open to you, but this audience might prefer my website, amata.house.gov. While you're there, feel free to sign up for our newsletter so that you can stay in touch. May God bless your efforts. As we know, technology can improve lives and allow family far away to seem much closer now and then. Thank you so much. Soifua Maia Manuia.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Amata. We really appreciate your presence and willingness to sit in on today's launch. We appreciate the support that you continue to provide us here back at home. I know DC has got to be a tough place to work, but we see the efforts of your work here, and we truly do appreciate it. So thank you very much. I did want to mention one more thing before we go into our last and final speaker. Congresswoman, of course, gave us a brief overview, if you will, of some of the activities going on in DC. If you didn't know it before today, you know it now. Telecommunications is a top priority in Washington, DC. And so it's very timely that we're doing all of this so that we stay informed and so that we create the partnerships to link up to these federal agencies where these very important resources come from. And so it's something that we should all be mindful of. The vast majority of our audience here is somehow working in and around the ICT industry. And so again, it's a national priority, and we should be looking to take advantage of resources that might be available to American Samoa. All right, we have one final speaker today, and our next speaker is Mr. Joe Merrick. Some of you may have seen Joe and his family on YouTube. Joe Merrick lived in Tafuna until he was 5 years old when his family, Jim and Fiesta Fitisemanu Merrick, moved to the United States. Today, Joe is the founder for Jamily TV, a YouTube channel founded in August 2018 in an effort to document the adventures of his family as they sold everything they owned and left a corner office job in corporate America and traveled all the way to the heart of the South Pacific to Samoa. Through their YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/Jamily TV, you can follow them on their journey there. Now, Joe, because of his business, is really busy, and he apologizes he couldn't be with us live today. He's filming some marketing material for the tourism office in Samoa, but he was kind enough to pre-record a video. And so Ginger, if we can cue that video now. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Joe. I am 1/6 of Jamily TV. Jamily TV is a YouTube and Facebook and Instagram social media platform, I guess, that's based in Samoa. So your neighbors, but I can give you guys a little bit of tips that'll help you to monetize your YouTube content and your social media content in general. There's two reasons why this is really important to American Samoa. The first reason is actually because there's so much demand for content made from American Samoa, and there's not that much supply. There are several quality YouTube channels that come out of American Samoa, but the demand is still there, so there's plenty of space that's available to absorb this demand, so you can do it today. So that's number one. Number two, the reason why American Samoa content is awesome is because you guys have the internet connectivity that you guys need in order to be able to build this content, right? When we were first building our YouTube channel over here, it cost us about $1,000 a month just in the internet fees, US dollars, so that we could upload and download the things we needed in order to make our YouTube channel successful. Over there, your internet is, I think, 10 times faster, and it costs way less. Between $55 and $135, I think, is what I saw, and your connectivity speed is just mind-blowing. So if we ever get that over here, that would be amazing for Jamily TV. Next thing we need to talk about is monetizing that content. There's really three ways that you can monetize your content on YouTube. The first way is through getting ads placed on your YouTube channel. And the way you do that is you have to get monetized, and the level is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. Now, That 4,000 watch hours kind of feels like it's like really overwhelming for you, but in the end, it's not that overwhelming. You can do it. We did it in, I think, maybe 30 days or 45 days or something like that. But what we were doing was we were really pumping out the content. Okay, so that's the first way that you can do it, is getting monetized by YouTube. So they'll pay you for placing ads on your videos. The second way that you can monetize your social media channels is through sponsors. Now, those sponsors could pay you for doing something for them, or they could just do it in trade. One of our sponsors is Digicel Samoa. They really we're so thankful for them, because what they did was they saw us, they believed in what we were trying to do for Samoa, which is bring tourism to Samoa, bring eyes to Samoa, let everyone know that Samoa is a place for you, whether you are Samoan who left 30 years ago, or you are Samoan who has never been to Samoa, or even if you're not Polynesian at all, but you're looking for a new place to come instead of Fiji, Tonga, Cook Islands, Vanuatu, whatever. Come to Samoa instead, and American Samoa. And so Digicel Samoa pays for all of our internet. And so thank you so much, Digicel Samoa, for that. Then there's the second way that you can get a sponsor, and that's in trade. So we've done some videos for Sheraton. We've done some videos for Orator hotels and resorts. We provide them a video and they provide us accommodation. So it's a nice little trade for us. It doesn't cost them anything. And then we just make a video for them. So it's just a nice equal trade for us. And then the third way to monetize your content is through a company called Patreon. Patreon is a place where your biggest fans, and you will have biggest fans, your biggest fans can reward you, and you can reward them back. They'll reward you by joining a tier. So we have, I think, 6 tiers. A $2 tier per month, a $5, $10, $25, $100, and then even $1,000 per month. Now, we don't have any $1,000 per month people yet, but eventually that'll happen. What we do with those tiers is we give them discounts, we give them shout outs, we send them stuff from Samoa, we give them pictures, we invite them to lives. So anyway, you present these tiers so that they can be a part of you as a creator, because people want to feel close to you as a creator. So those are 3 ways to monetize your content. Now, what you have to do in order to monetize that content, you have to do these 3 things. Number 1, you have to be consistent. Don't put out 1 video a month and hope that people will come and they want to give you money to do something, because nobody wants that. If I'm only seeing 1 video from you per month, then it's not something that I'm really interested in. I'm like happy about it because you're showing me American Samoa, but I'm not like willing to actually give you anything for it, I'm just happy to see it. So be consistent, upload 2 or 3 videos per week, maybe 4 or 5 if you have the time and the energy, and you can do it. That would be awesome. The second thing you have to do is you have to make it quality. Don't just take a video for 45 minutes and expect people to watch it. It's got to be fun and exciting. You got to show drone shots, you got to show the beaches, you got to show your family playing, doing fun things that will keep people entertained. That's what YouTube rewards. And then finally, the third thing that you have to do is you just have to be yourself. If you're not going to be yourself, then you're not going to be successful, unfortunately. So do those 3 things and you can monetize your content on your social media platforms. And American Samoa presents the perfect opportunity with the new cable. Thanks for giving me a moment to speak. So, Manuel Aso. Fa.
All right, that was great. That was Joe Merrick, and again, if you haven't seen him, on YouTube, by all means, go check out his page. They've got over 21,000 subscribers, and so they're doing a fantastic job creating content. And one quick point that I want to emphasize or reiterate that Joe brought up, what he's doing is also impacting tourism, and so there's a tremendous reach of being able to work these social media tools to benefit us in several different ways. And so again, thanks to Joe. That was fun. It was great to see his family again there on Jamily TV. But at this point, that wraps up the first part of our virtual lunch. So I want to say thank you to all of our speakers. That was fantastic. It was great to hear from all of you. I want to, and when I sit back and think about where we are today and what we're trying to accomplish, I guess in short, and Ginger, you can chime in on this too, this has totally exceeded our expectations. And so again, we're very grateful that everybody took the time out of their schedule to chime in and join us. And keep in mind, this is just the beginning. Now, just some final comments before I turn it back over to Ginger. We've not talked a lot today about the coronavirus and what it's done to life as we know it, but clearly broadband's role is now front and center. And to a certain degree, it's taken a global pandemic for us to realize what we already have at our fingertips, literally. Meetings like this are possible now for us, and they weren't 3 years ago. But I'll go back to the beginning of this talk and remind us all of the challenge that Director Lafayette put out. What else can we now do? And all the speakers spoke to that same question to one degree or another. But again, if there's any one thing that you leave this call with today, it's that question. Ask yourself and challenge yourself. And if you're leaders out in the community, challenge your teams. Ask them, what can we do with Hawaii to improve the quality of life of our people? And that's essentially what we hope to accomplish here. And so with that, I would like to ask that if everybody who's still on the call, if you can turn on your video. Imagine if this was at the Lee Auditorium, right? We're all gonna walk out front to do a photo in front of the Lee Auditorium. So we want to do the same thing here virtually. So turn on your camera. We wanna see your beautiful faces. This is historic, I think, to a certain degree for us here in American Samoa. This is the first time that we've done something like this. And so let's see all those wonderful, beautiful faces out there. Ginger is our camera woman. She's taking shots, right? I'll turn it over to you now, Ginger, and the show is yours.
All right, so thank you, Michael. And yeah, we have so many people connected right now. I have 3 screens of everyone on it. So I'm gonna take shots of various parts. So I'm gonna do, just keep smiling, just keep smiling. All right, ready? We are going to just smile away. Give me some nice big whiteys. 1, 2, and smile. Thank you. Moving on to the next window. 1, 2, and smile. All right, one more window to go. And 1, 2, and smile. Wonderful. That's it, fantastic. Thank you all so much. This is a lot of people that have connected. And so, like I said, it is a true demonstration of the capabilities that you have there in American Samoa to be able to hold. We've been on for about 2 hours, or about an hour and so, but to be able to hold that connection, that connectivity for those hours has been really great. So with that said, I thank you again. I echo Michael's and Director Kinsili's words from the beginning to say thank you all for your time and for participating in today's call. We are going to transition into the next phase. So I'm going to ask those who I reached out to you personally on email, if you could stay online, part of the working group. That working group will grow eventually, but we wanted to start with a few folks on.
Ginger, if I may.
Go ahead.
Do we have a couple of minutes for Q&A here now that all the speakers have wrapped up?
Yep, absolutely.
Tafa, I guess Tafa was monitoring our questions, right?
Yes. So Tafa? I think Tafa's taking a call right now, but I do have a question that came on Facebook, from our Facebook Live. People wanted to know, this is a question for Dr. Ladua, that if LBJ had any plans to offer a virtual doctor's appointment directly to people's homes.
Hi, Ginger. No, at the moment, we don't have that.
Okay, thank you. And that's all the questions that I received so far. I'm going to open it up to people here. You're welcome to go on off mute and ask your question directly.
Hi, my name is Ken here at the Attorney General's office in American Samoa. I have a question for Mr. Bert Lum. Great presentation on the various connections that you have there on the islands in Hawaii. My question is associated with something that was mentioned by a speaker earlier, Mr. Sorry if I pronounce it, Moananui Haretuku, and a concern about security. It's great, and coming from a background of a military background, 22 years in the service, security is like the most important thing as far as connection. There are certain layers of security, but here in the islands, it's relying on the customer to provide that only security. My question is, in Hawaii, is there layers of security in place for various island connections on the submarine cables and so forth?
That's a great question. So, you know, when some of the first cables were landed here, they actually brought them up on like Makaha Beach, and you can actually go and see the cable coming up on the beach. And I think that's a very insecure way, and you could actually, you know, potentially have somebody with nefarious plans to go in and cut the cable. The recent cables, and that's why I was a little surprised to hear Moana Nui talk about Hawaii and its insecure arrangement in American Samoa. In Hawaii, the Hawaii cable comes in. I've seen where the cable lands. It's really secure. It comes in out by Kahe Point, and what they do is they come in and they actually land in a manhole, and then from the manhole it goes underneath the highway over to the Hawaii cable landing station. And in the cable landing station, there's 24/7 security coverage with a live person there all the time, and they outsourced it to a company here that does a major data center called DR Fortress. So I'm, you know, from a security standpoint, I know they got their act together here to protect not only the cable landing, but you know, they've already got security and the protocols and procedures in for DR Fortress. So I was actually surprised to hear that Hawaii in American Samoa was not as secure.
Thank you.
Ginger, if I may comment to that as well, if you don't mind. Part of what we hope to accomplish through this process, again, the planning and creation of this broadband strategy, is to identify some of these concerns. And Moana had shared that, and of course, I think we'll take that under consideration and reach out to our Azteca friends and partners, and get a much better idea of what the reality is around the security. But again, this is a perfect example of what we hope to accomplish moving forward. And it's important that we're aware of these concerns. As Moana had mentioned, if there are industry players and investors and entrepreneurs who are looking to come in to start something, we need to know what the concerns are so that we can address them and take care of them appropriately.
I did want to add one more thing to something that Michael had brought up earlier about how do you engage young people with this infrastructure that you have now enabled. And some of the things that like Joel showed on his video are ways of getting people engaged and creating content, which I think he does a great job of, and he's got a lot of energy doing that. The thing that has been a great movement here, and I think probably translates easily to American Samoa, is the fact that the Native Hawaiian culture has been really reviving and trying to look at ways that the intersection between Native culture and technology can prosper. And so I sent Michael a link. There's a nonprofit group called Purple Maya. And what Purple Maya does is that they provide training in computer science and programming to elementary school kids. So there's an early entry or early education effort to get students involved with programming. And it could be anything from website development to application to Minecraft or whatever. And as you start to get students more in tune with their culture and the connection that the culture can have with technology, an example of that is Purple Maya also does something called Purple Prize. And they've actually set up a program where through projects that come out of, you know, the innovative process, they actually help to accelerate some of those programs. And they're great. They come on the radio show all the time, and we talk about it. And I think it's a way of connecting people with their culture, as well as connecting them to the technology that enables their culture to get to a broader audience. So I think that's important to consider when you start to pull your hui together.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bert. We appreciate that. I'd like to ask, going back to the previous question or topic brought up by Kenya, Fatsala from Azteca, can you comment to the, I guess, the current status of the security of the Hawaii cable, both from the landing station and, you know, in between? Ginger, can you unmute Sal, please?
Sorry. Thanks for that, Mike. Hi, guys. Azteca, Fasala here from Azteca, CTO here at Azteca. In regards to security, Bert is exactly right about the physical portion of the security. The cable is pretty secured underground from the beach manhole to the Azteca facility in Ilili, which is essentially the cable landing station. And one of the things about security is that FCC does require each cable landing station. I'm sure our friends over at Blue Sky is aware of this as well with the ASH and SAS cable. The Hawaii cable, FCC is required to have a certain amount of security personnel to secure the cable 24/7. And we do have that in place. And one of the bigger things that we've been trying to deploy here is the cybersecurity part of the whole security of the cable system. And cybersecurity mostly is the carrier and ISP's role, but for the cable itself, we do have firewalls in place for the Azteca Hawaii cable. So I think we're not, you know, albeit we're not the best 100% completed with our security operations center, but we do have a fair amount of security around the cable and as a carrier and ISP.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Fatsala, of course, is the CTO over at Azteca. So again, another example of us answering some concerns and questions right here instantaneously on this hui, on this call. So Moana, if you're still on, you can check security off your project list and get your investors down here. Let's create some jobs. But no, in all seriousness, it's a valid concern, something we should always take very seriously. And so thank you, Sal, for commenting to that question. Ginger.
Okay, so thank you all so much. Once again, that is the end of our official launch. And if there are no burning questions, then you are welcome to disconnect. But I would ask the working group that I had sent a specific email to if you could please stay on for the next 45 minutes. Thank you, Bert.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to all our speakers.